Hello everyone, it's Glenda and welcome back to my channel, Creative Grandma. It's Stitch of the Week time and this week's stitch is number 163. It's the Shells and Picot stitch. This is a beautiful stitch pattern for the spring-summer season when you want a pattern that's light and airy but still takes the chill off. So this is my first sample. This sample was made using the Red Heart Super Saver Ombre in the color True Blue. Now I didn't get to go through all the colors because my sample's very small, but it gives you an idea. You can start seeing that color transition right here. But isn't this a beautiful stitch pattern? Now this stitch pattern is a multiple of 7 plus 2. So you would chain 7, chain 7 again, keep chaining in multiples of 7 till you get it to the width you want. Then you add 2 more chains. So this is the front, and when you turn it over, it's going to look the same on the back as it does the front. So that is my first sample. My second sample is a smaller sample, but I bumped my hook size up. So I do think this pattern looks a little bit better when you use the lighter weight yarn and a smaller hook. But this was made using a 4 medium weight yarn with a size I9 crochet hook. This sample, the blue one, I dropped my hook size down to an H8. So these are both 4 weight yarns. Now this sample was made using the Premier Basics. It's a number 4 medium weight yarn, but this yarn is a little thicker, a little more plump, and that's why I used a larger size hook. But I do like the difference, even though they're both 4 weight yarns, I like the difference with using a smaller hook size. So you can see the difference on that. But this is the white sample, very classic look. This is the front. And when you turn it over, this is the back. My third sample, this also was made with the smaller hook size, and this is a multicolored sample. This sample was made using this beautiful Yarn Bee Soft Secret Ombre Whisper. This is the color Whisper, color 204. I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby. I just think it's a beautiful yarn in the skein and worked up. So this is the front. And when you turn it over, this is the back. So again, the blue sample and the multi-sample was made by dropping my hook size down to an H8. And then this white sample, I bumped my hook size up. And as you can see, it all depends on what you're looking for. I do think the smaller hook size looks better with this pattern. So for my crochet tutorial today, I am using the Himalaya Baby DK. Now this is a yarn I did get on Premier's website. I believe it's a clearance yarn. This is a wonderful 3 lightweight Baby DK yarn. Very soft, very nice yarn. Now if this is still available, I'll put a link in the description box underneath the video if you want to check it out. It's 100% acrylic. It comes in a 3.5 ounce skein, 100 grams, 310 meters, 339 yards. It recommends a size H8 crochet hook, but for the tutorial, we're going to drop down to a G6 or 4 millimeter. And I'm not sure what the color name is, so this is the information. And again, if this yarn is still available, I'll put a link directly to Premier so you can check out all the colors. So for this tutorial, you can use any yarn you wish, but look on your label and it's going to tell you the recommended hook size. Now you can use the recommended hook size or you can drop your hook size down like I am. So grab your yarn, grab your hook, and let's get this stitch pattern started. To begin, I'm going to attach my yarn to my hook, and everyone asks me what's a double knot. This is how my gram taught me. I tie 1 knot around my hook, and then I just tie a second knot. So when I say I attach my yarn with a double knot, that's all that means. Now you can join your yarn to your hook in whichever method you prefer. This is the way I honor my grandmother because she's the one who taught me, and this is just how I do it. Now this stitch pattern is a multiple of 7 plus 2. So we're going to take the multiple of 7 times 4 for 28, and then we're going to add 2 for a total of 30 chains. Now I want to remind everyone all my crochet tutorials are filmed using USA crochet terms. You're going to yarn over, pull through the loop on your hook, and this creates your first chain. The loop on your hook does not count as a chain. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue until you have 30 chains, and I'll be back and we'll start row 1. I'm back. I have my 30 chains. Now if you want to do a larger sample swatch, then just use the multiple of 7 plus 2. Now this stitch pattern is a 1-row repeat. Row 1 will be our base row. Row 2 will be the repeat row. So let's begin. We're going to skip the first 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And into the 6th chain from hook, we're going to work 2 double crochet. Yarn over, skip the first 5 chains, insert into the 6th chain, work a double crochet. Yarn over, pull back through that chain. You have 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You just made a double crochet. Double crochet back into that same chain. We're going to chain 2 and then work 2 more double crochet back into that same chain. One, and 2. So when you look at your work, you're going to have 2 double crochet, a chain 2, and 2 double crochet into the 6th chain of that beginning chain. Now we're going to begin our repeat. We're going to start the repeat with a picot stitch. Now this picot stitch is made a little bit differently than how I usually do it when I insert into the stitch. This picot stitch, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. You're going to skip 2 chains, and then you're going to slip stitch into the first chain of that chain 3. Yarn over, pull through that chain, and pull through the loop on your hook. You just made your picot stitch. Now we're going to skip the next 6 chains. You're going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chains, and into the 7th chain, you're going to work 2 double crochets. One, and 2. You're going to chain 2, and then you're going to work 2 more double crochet back into that same chain. 1, and 2. And that is the end of the repeat. And you can see how your pattern is forming. So let's do the repeat again. We're going to start with the picot stitch. You're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Then you're going to skip 2 chains and then slip stitch into that first chain of those 3 chains, yarn over, pull through that chain, and pull through the loop on your hook. Your picot stitch is made. You're going to skip the next 6 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and into the 7th chain, work 2 double crochets. 1, and 2. You're going to chain 2, and then work 2 double crochet back into that same chain. 1, and 2, and that is the end of the repeat. So we have one repeat to go. We begin with the picot stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, then come back and insert your hook into the first chain of those 3 chains and slip stitch through that chain and through the loop on your hook. Your picot stitch is made. You're going to skip the next 6 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, into the 7th chain, work 2 double crochets. One, and 2, chain 2, and then work 2 double crochet back into that same chain. 1, and 2, and that is the end of the repeat. And what you should have is you should have a shell stitch, a picot stitch, shell stitch, picot stitch, shell stitch, picot stitch, and shell stitch. So if you're working on a wider project, then just continue and work your picot stitch, skip 6 stitches, and then work your shell of 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. You're going to work across until you have 3 chains remaining. To end row 1, you're going to skip the next 2 chains and end with a double crochet into that last chain across. Insert into that chain, work your double crochet. So row 1 is finished. This is what your work should look like. Again, row 1 is the base row. Row 2 will be your repeat row. So let's go ahead and begin row 2. To begin row 2, we're going to begin with the chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and you're going to turn your work. Your beginning chain 3 counts as the first stitch. We're going to skip the first 2 double crochet into the next chain 2 space right in the center of that shell stitch, work 2 double crochets. 1, and 2. You're going to chain 2. Then you're going to work 2 double crochet back into that same chain 2 space. 1, and 2. Now we're ready to begin our repeat, and our repeat starts with our picot stitch. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You're going to come back to the first chain, insert your hook into that first chain, yarn over, pull through that chain, and pull through the loop on your hook. Your picot stitch is made. You're going to go to your next shell stitch, work 2 double crochet into the chain 2 space of that next shell stitch. 1, and 2. You're going to chain 2 and then work 2 double crochet back into that same chain 2 space. 1, and 2, and that is the end of the repeat. And you can see how our shell stitch is in the center of the shell stitch below. Your picot stitch is above the picot stitch below, and then we repeat that across. So let's do the repeat again. We're going to start with our picot stitch. You're going to chain 3, bring your hook down to the first chain of that chain 3, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through that chain, pull through the loop on your hook. Your picot stitch is made. Then you're going to go to your next shell stitch, work 2 double crochet into the chain 2 space of that next shell stitch. 1, and 2. Chain 2, and then work 2 more double crochet back into that same chain 2 space. 1 and 2, and that is the end of the repeat. We have one repeat to go. We start with our picot stitch, chain 3, come down to the first chain of the chain 3, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through the loop on your hook. Your picot stitch is made. You're going to come over to the next shell stitch, work 2 double crochet into the chain 2 space of that next shell stitch, 1 and 2. You're going to chain 2 and then work 2 double crochet back into that same chain 2 space, 1 and 2. And that is the end of the repeat. And again, if you're working on a wider project, just continue the repeat across until after you make your last shell stitch in the last shell stitch below. You're going to have 3 stitches remaining, 2 double crochet, and your turning chain. So to end the row, we are skipping the last 2 stitches, and we're going to work a double crochet into the top chain of the turning chain. Yarn over, skip the last 2 double crochet, insert into the top chain of that turning chain, work your double crochet. Row 2 is finished. So again, row 1 is the base row, row 2 is the repeat row. So I'm going to go ahead and work row 2 with you one more time. Again, we're just repeating row 2 for row 3. You're going to chain 3. You're going to turn your work. Your beginning chain 3 counts as the first stitch. You're going to go to your first shell stitch, into the chain 2 space, work 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. You're going to chain 2, then back into that same chain 2 space, work 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And when you look at your work, your shell stitch should be in the center of the shell stitch below. Now we're going to start our repeat, and our repeat starts with the picot stitch. You're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, insert into that first chain, yarn over, pull through that chain, and pull through the loop on your hook. Your picot stitch is made. You're going to go to your next shell stitch, work 2 double crochet into the chain 2 space of that next shell stitch, 1 and 2, chain 2, and then work 2 double crochet back into that same chain 2 space, 1 and 2. And that is the end of the repeat. And when you look at your work, just make sure that your shell stitch is above the shell stitch below and your picot stitch is above the picot stitch below. So let's do the repeat again. You're going to start with your picot stitch and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Insert into the first chain, slip stitch through that chain and through the loop on your hook. Your picot stitch is made. Then you're going to go to your next shell stitch, work 2 double crochet into the chain 2 space of that next shell stitch, 1 and 2. You're going to chain 2, then work 2 double crochet back into that same chain 2 space, 1 and 2. And that is the end of the repeat. We have one repeat to go. Again, we're starting with the picot stitch, so chain 3. Then you're going to bring your hook over to the first chain of that chain 3, insert your hook and slip stitch through that chain and through the loop on your hook. Now we're going to go over to our next shell stitch, into the chain 2 space, work 2 double crochets. 1, and 2. You're going to chain 2. Then you're going to work 2 double crochet back into that same chain 2 space. 1, and 2. And that is the end of the repeat. And you can see how that pattern is forming. So now to end the row, you are going to skip the last 2 double crochet of that last shell stitch and into the top chain of that turning chain, work a double crochet. Row 3 is finished, and that's how easy it is to do the shell and picot stitch. So to continue working on your sample swatch, you can just click back on the video, repeat row 2 over and over until you get it to the length you want. So if you're looking for a fun pattern for a nice lacy scarf, this would be perfect for the spring-summer season. Now I could see this as a beautiful spring-summer throw using the red heart ombre, beautiful in that yarn. Whether you want something made in the classic white, or look how gorgeous made in a multicolor. So many different looks with this stitch pattern, just depending on what yarn you use. If you enjoyed today's crochet tutorial, please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the crochet fun here on Creative Grandma's channel. Now remember, all my Stitch of the Week patterns are free. You can find them on my website, creativegrandma.net. Just click the banner, Stitch of the Week, scroll down to stitch number 163, Shells and Picot Stitch, and when you click on the name of the stitch pattern, the pattern will pop up. You can either download it or print it right away. So thank you everybody, and until next time, stay inspired and happy crocheting. Bye!